And I thank all of you for your testimony. Many experts are telling us that global warming is one of the most severe environmental threats facing this nation and the world. The challenges confronting us are enormous, potentially. And therefore, I think policymakers have an obligation to understand the science, and we need to get that scientific information without any manipulation of the science, without any suppressing of the reports or misleading the public about the issues. It seems to me would be a breach of the public trust. So we have been asking for this information. Dr. Shindell, you're one of the nation's leading climate change scientists, and I want to discuss some of the documents that the committee staff reviewed and ask whether you are concerned about the issues in these documents. First of all, let me begin by asking about some of the edits urged by the White House Office of Management and Budget. OMB asked that an EPA report be rewritten to remove the statement that global warming may, quote, alter regional patterns of climate, end quote, and, quote, potentially affect the balance of radiation, end quote. Dr. Shindell, do you think this was an appropriate change in the document? The statement in the EPA draft was that climate change can alter regional climates and affect the balance of radiation. Is there any scientific justification for removing these assertions?
No, that is a very well-supported statement. For the change in the energy balance of the planet, we have satellite data that have measured that balance directly for decades now, and we can see it changing. It is extremely well documented and uncontroversial. As far as regional patterns, I mentioned before, yes. Antarctica has gone the other way from the rest of the globe. Different areas have warmed more, others less. It's quite clear that this is happening.
Another edit deleted the phrase, quote, changes observed over the last several decades are likely mostly the result of human activities, end quote. And that phrase was replaced with the phrase that said, quote, a causal link between the buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and the observed climate changes during the 20th century cannot be unequivocally established, end quote. Is this an appropriate change? Does the rephrasing accurately represent the science, or does it mislead the public?
I would say that that is also a misleading statement. While technically true, the first statement that human activities play the dominant role is much more accurate picture of the science.
Some of the edits we reviewed were made by CEQ Chief of Staff Philip Cooney. Now, Mr. Cooney is not a scientist by training. Instead, he's a lawyer who was a working lobbyist for the American Petroleum Institute before he was appointed to his position at the Council on Environmental Quality. And I'd like to ask you some questions about his edits. In one document, Mr. Cooney deleted a reference to the National Research Council's finding that human activities are causing temperatures to rise. Obviously, the National Research Council is this country's premier scientific body. Can you tell us if there is a scientific basis for deleting a reference to this finding?
No, that is, again, a well-supported statement.
In the same document, Mr. Cooney deleted the phrase, quote, climate change has global consequences for human health and environment, end quote. Is there anything scientifically questionable about this phrase?
Again, no.